The night the old man gave his daughter everything, the fireflies disappeared. Every last one gone. He stood at the shrine entrance and stared at the darkness. He should have taken that as a warning. He went inside anyway and gave her everything. Dibia Chukwuemeka had served Umunna village for 40 years. He woke before the sun. He slept after the moon. He healed the sick. He spoke to the dead. He walked between the living world and the spirit world and came back each time carrying what the village needed. The ancestors trusted him with everything and gave him one child, a girl, Ngozi. She was not ordinary. At 12, she could read the carries better than grown men. At 15, she could call rain from a clear sky. At 17, she did something inside the shrine that made her father's most senior apprentice pack his bag and leave. He never said what he saw. He just left and never came back. She was powerful. She knew it. That was the part that kept her father awake at night. Not her power, her awareness of it.
When the ancestors began calling the old man home, he brought Ngozi into the shrine. He looked at her for a long time before speaking. "I am giving you everything," he said. "Every power I carry, every spirit that answers my name, the shrine, the knowledge, all of it." Her eyes lit up. "But first, I am listening, Papa." "No," he said quietly. "You are waiting. Those are not the same thing." She said nothing. "Power is not a gift," he said. "It is a responsibility. The ancestors gave it to me to carry this village, not to carry myself. Do you understand the difference?" "Yes, Papa." He looked at her. He was not sure she did, but he had no son. He had no choice. He laid her on the shrine floor and chanted through the night. By morning, she was unconscious. When she woke, the ground shook when she walked. For 3 weeks, she was good. She healed, she helped. She sat where her father sat, and the people came and she solved their problems. The village was pleased. Her father watched quietly from the corner. He watched how she received the praise, how she leaned into it, how her chin lifted a little higher each day. He said nothing, but something tightened in his chest.
He started with a farmer named Obiora. He came with a land dispute. Ngozi listened. She gave the right judgment. The land belonged to Obiora. Then she pointed to the biggest section of that land. "That part is my payment," she said. Obiora stared. "I never agreed to land as payment." "You have the rest of your farm," Ngozi said. "Be grateful and go." Her father heard every word from the inner room. He sat very still. 1 week later, she decided she wanted to be greeted like the king. She sent word to the palace. The king's messenger returned with a polite refusal. That night, Ngozi stood outside and whispered something into the dark. The next morning, the chief messenger looked in the mirror. His hair was completely white, not grey, white. Like something had reached inside him and pulled the color out. He ran to the palace trembling. By afternoon, the king's guards were greeting Ngozi with the royal salute. She walked past them without even looking, like it was already owed to her. Queen Adaeze walked past Ngozi in the market without bowing. She was old, her knees were bad. She simply didn't see Ngozi coming. That evening, Ngozi's men arrived at the queen's farm. 3 acres of yam, cassava and pepper that the queen had grown for 12 years, gone, transferred to Ngozi by force. Queen Adaeze stood at her gate and wept. "My grandchildren eat from that farm. Please, please." The men looked at the ground and said nothing. They had their orders. A trader named Emeka was complaining in the market. He had lost goods on the road and was talking too loudly about how the village had changed, how people lived in fear, how things were not right. Ngozi walked past. She had her name. She stopped. She turned. She looked at Emeka, said one word under her breath. Emeka looked down at his hands. Where his fingers had been, cassava tubers, white, hard, growing from his palms. He screamed. He shook his hands wildly. He dropped to his knees and begged. Ngozi watched him for a long moment. Then she reversed it, slowly. Next time, she said quietly, "I will not reverse it." Emeka never raised his voice again. Not once, not for anything.
A woman named Chidima held Ngozi's gaze for 1 second too long. That was all. Just 1 second.
Chidima woke the next morning and opened her mouth to call her children. No teeth. She touched her gums with shaking fingers. Empty. She ran to her husband screaming. He took her to the shrine. Ngozi looked at her without any feeling on her face. Come back when you have learnt respect, she said. 3 days later, the teeth returned. Chidima told nobody. She didn't need to. The whole village already knew. A 19-year-old boy named Tobena was running to the healer. His mother had a fever. He was in a hurry. He turned a corner and ran straight into Ngozi. He knocked her sideways. He scrambled up immediately, apologizing, hands shaking, voice breaking. She looked at him. He rose off the ground. His feet left the earth slowly. 6 feet up, 7, 8. He hung in the air with his arms spinning and his eyes wide with terror. The whole market froze. Nobody breathed. Ngozi watched him hang there for a long time. Then she dropped him. He hit the ground hard, lay there winded and shaking. Watch where you walk, she said. She continued on her way. Nobody helped Tobena up. They were afraid to be seen helping him.
She turned a man's 3 sons into goats, not because they hurt her, not because they disrespected her, because their father was 3 days late on a debt. She drove the goats into her compound herself. The father came and fell flat on his face in the road outside her gate, weeping, begging, calling her every honorific he knew. She came to the gate, looked down at him. 2 weeks, she said. Bring what you owe, then collect your sons. She went back inside. He sat in the road until night fell. Nobody came near him. She began walking into the king's court uninvited. She just arrived, sat down, and when judgments were being made, she spoke last. Whatever she said became the final decision. The king sat on his throne and delivered her verdicts in his own voice. He remembered the messenger's white hair. He remembered Emeka's cassava fingers. He said nothing. He simply obeyed. Her father warned her again. The king has sent word. The chiefs are afraid. People are suffering, Ngozi. People who behave are not suffering, she said. You turned a man's sons into goats. He owed me. You took Queen Adaize's farm. She disrespected me. You are not the king. I am more powerful than the king. The old man was quiet. That is not the same thing, he said. In this village, she said, it is exactly the same thing. She went back to what she was doing. He stood in the entrance of his shrine and felt like a stranger in his own house. She threatened him that night, quietly, almost gently. He had grabbed her arm and she had turned and looked at his hand on her arm, then looked at his face. Papa, she said, do not make me forget who you are to me. He let go. He stood alone in the shrine shaking. Not with fear, with something worse, the knowledge that the threat was real. The king called his chiefs. They whispered behind closed doors. She cannot be reasoned with. She cannot be threatened. She cannot be matched. They hired a powerful man from the eastern forest. He arrived with charms stacked to his elbows, a smoking staff, 6 apprentices behind him. The whole village came out to watch. He stood in the market square and called to Ngozi in a voice that shook windows. Ngozi came out. She looked at him. He started his incantation. Loud, rhythmic, powerful. His staff struck the ground. His apprentices responded in chorus. Ngozi waited. When he stopped to breathe, she raised one hand. Every charm fell off his arms at the same time. His staff went cold. His apprentices looked at each other, then looked at the road. They left. The man stood alone. Just a man now, holding a stick. He looked at Ngozi. She hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, hadn't even changed her expression. He turned and walked away. Ngozi looked at the watching crowd. Anyone else? An old woman, 80-year-old from the neighboring town, Lolo Adana, was at the market on Wednesday, selling herbs, roots, clay pots, things that needed no explanation. Ngozi arrived. The crowd moved without being asked. Your strongest medicine. Name your price. The old woman looked up slowly. Return every farm you seized. Release the man's sons. 7 days. Not 1 drop of power for yourself. I said price, not punishment. That is my price. Ngozi picked up a clay pot, turned it like market trash. My father's youngest apprentice sweeps better medicine than this off his floor. She set it down hard. I came here out of respect. Lolo Adana said nothing. Ngozi swept the stall with one hand. Herbs hit the ground. Keep your bush medicine. She left. Nobody breathed. Nobody touched the herbs. Lolo Adana bent slowly, picked them up, dusted them, put them back where they belonged. Then, Adaona, the small barefoot girl, stepped from behind the stall. She had been there the whole time. The old woman took her hand without looking at Ngozi's retreating back. Tuesday, she said quietly. We are coming back on Tuesday. They walked out together, slow, unbothered, like they had already seen how this ends.
Tuesday came. Lolo Adana walked into the market like she had an appointment with something inevitable. Bent low, moving slow, stick arguing with the ground beneath her. Behind her, Adaora, small, barefoot, a simple wrapper tied at her chest. Her face held nothing special, no anger, no power, no fire. She looked like someone's little sister sent to fetch water. The market went quiet. Then someone laughed, and it spread everywhere, fast. The laughter of people who have been afraid for a very long time and have finally found something that isn't frightening. A child. That child against Ngozi. The old woman said nothing. The girl said nothing. They waited for the laughter to stop.
Ngozi heard about it within the hour. She laughed too, short, dismissive, and walked to the market. She arrived the way she always arrived, back straight, chin high, the crowd moving out of her way without being asked. She looked at the child looked back. No stepping back, no dropping of eyes, no fear anywhere on that small, quiet face. Go home, little girl, Ngozi said, almost kindly. The child said nothing. I will not say it again. The girl raised one small hand. Ngozi raised hers. Nobody could fully explain what happened next. Some said they saw light. Some said they saw nothing at all. What everyone agreed on, what nobody disputed. Ngozi left the ground. She flew backward across the market square and hit the earth so hard the dust exploded around her like smoke. Her wrapper came loose. Her hair burst free. Every single charm she wore shattered at the same moment. All of them at once, like someone had snapped their fingers. The pieces scattered across the square like broken shell. Ngozi lay flat on her back in the red dust, staring at the sky.
The girl walked over to her, stood above her, looked down, then simply turned and walked back to her grandmother. Done, just like that, like removing a thorn. The market square held its breath. Then the king laughed. Not mockery, the laugh of a man whose chest has been crushed for months and has finally been allowed to breathe. A queen grabbed another queen and they held each other weeping and laughing at the same time. A chief sat down right where he stood, just sat on the ground. The whole village let go of something it had been holding so long it had forgotten what it felt like to put it down. Ngozi lay in the dust. She looked up at the faces above her. The farmer whose land she took, the woman whose teeth she stole, the man whose sons she turned to goats, the boy she suspended in the air, all of them looking down at her. She searched the crowd, found her father, standing at the very back. He had not come to watch. He had come because he heard, because a father comes, even when he already knows what he will find. He stood with his hands at his sides. He was not angry. He was not happy. He was grieving. The quiet grief of a man who saw something coming from very far away and could not stop it.
Their eyes met. I told you, he said. Simple, heavy. Before I gave you one drop of power, I told you. Every ancestor who carried this gift before me used it for one thing only, to serve. Not one of them in 4 generations used it to put fear in people's hearts. Not one. He stopped, breathed. And a small barefoot girl has shown this entire village what I could not make you understand. The king stepped forward. He looked at the old woman, at the small girl beside her. He removed his cap and held it to his chest, then placed it back. Turned to Ngozi. Get up, he said. She got up slowly, dusty, barefoot, hair loose, charms in pieces around her feet, nothing left to hide behind. Your father has served this village before I was born, the king said. He has healed people who had nothing to pay him. He has never once taken what was not freely given. He looked at her steadily. What you did with what he gave you is not his name, it is yours. Silence. Because of who your father is, you leave this square today. You go home. You sit in that shrine and you think about what name you want to leave behind when you are gone.
The crowd stayed where they were. Ngozi walked through them. Nobody moved aside. Nobody stepped back. She had to squeeze through, had to say excuse me. She walked home through people who used to jump out of her way, who now simply stood and watched her pass. Her father found her in the shrine that night. She was sitting on the floor, not crying, not performing sadness, just sitting, empty. He sat across from her. Long silence. Why didn't you take the power back? She said quietly. When I wouldn't listen, you could have taken it all back. Because I cannot live your life for you, he said. I can warn, I can grieve, but the lesson must be yours or it means nothing at all. She looked at the broken charms on the floor. I thought being the most powerful meant I answered to nobody. Power answers to everything, he said. That is what makes it power. Any fool can refuse to bow. It takes real strength to choose to. Silence. The girl, Ngozi said. Who is she? The old man looked at her. She is her grandmother's granddaughter, he said simply. That is enough.
She began to rebuild. Not her powers, those stayed. Something else. She walked to every door. Obiora's harm returned. Queen Adaize's land returned. The man's 3 sons came stumbling out of her compound, blinking in the light. She stood at every door, and she said what she had done. Some people opened the door right away. Some made her stand in the sun a long time before they answered. She stood. She had learned how to stand for something that wasn't herself. Her father died 3 years later, at dawn, in the shrine, her hand holding his. He looked at her near the end. The ancestors are satisfied, he said. She held his hand tighter. With you, Papa, she said. With you. He smiled, closed his eyes, and went home.
The night they buried him, the fireflies came back. All of them, at once. Filling the dark exactly where they had vanished the night he gave her everything. The village stood and watched, and nobody spoke for a long time. Ngozi is still in that shrine today, still powerful, still sharp, still not someone you interrupt twice. But children play near the shrine now, and when night falls, she sits at the entrance, the same spot her father stood when the fireflies first disappeared, and she watches the darkness, carrying what was given to her, the way it was always meant to be carried, quietly, in service, not in fear. Moral: power that serves lives forever. Power that rules dies in disgrace. The ancestors are always watching, and they always send the answer in the shape you least expect.
Watch your tongue, child.